today's summit. And without further ado, we'll go right into inviting our keynote speaker. I always tell people Africa needs to start hearing from and listening to.
Sorry. I know I've not taken all my allotted time, but I'm conscious and aware of the fact that there are many good speakers that are going to follow me.
So like I was saying, I said Africa needs to start hearing from and listening to their own thought leaders, leaders that can charter a path to solutions that are needed, that we're faced with, and challenges we're faced with on the continent. And when this program was being put together, when I heard that the keynote address was going to be given by no other than Professor Patrick Loch Otieno Lumumba, I was gladdened in my heart because you know that that is a voice that has been speaking on the continent that we need to really listen to. Without further ado, I will introduce him. He currently practices law with Lumumba and Lumumba Advocates and coordinate activities under the aegis of the PLO Lumumba Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Professor Patrick Lumumba.
Are we okay?
Just to explain while they're getting, so Professor Lumumba's address is going to be a recorded one, but he is going to participate in a short discussion afterwards. Just so you know, he pre-recorded an address. Thank you.
far to seek. Africa's Achilles heel has been that her story has been told by others. As the saying goes, when the hunters write the story, it is the exploits of the hunter that will be given the oxygen of publicity and not the bravery of the lion. Africa finds herself in such an unfortunate and unenviable situation. She is a continent that has given succor to other civilizations. She is a continent that has been kind to others throughout the ages. And she is a continent whose kindness has been abused over the years. When the Portuguese came in the early days, they traded with the western part of Africa. But no sooner had they settled than they recognized that there was a lot more in the continent. And they led the quest for the enslavement of Africans. And Africans were enslaved, if not by the Portuguese, by the Spaniards, and if not by the Spaniards, by the Portuguese, and if not by the Portuguese, by the Dutch, and if not by the Dutch, by the British, so that the African person, in the words of Frantz Fanon, were thingified and commodified at once. When slavery had lost its luster, the erstwhile colonizer became the abolitionists. And no sooner had they stopped talking about abolition than they instituted another pernicious process, the process of colonization of Africa. And they sat out there in Berlin in 1884, pernicious to the core, parceling Africa out arbitrarily amongst themselves. They were there on that day when they divided Africa. Germans had their piece, the British had their piece, the French had their piece, the Italians had their piece, the Spaniards had their piece, and the Portuguese had their piece. Everybody had their piece, not to forget the Arabs, who themselves had also invaded the eastern part of Africa. And when the colonial project had lost its luster, in a very subterranean way, they instituted another subtle form of colonization, the neo-colonial project. And the neo-colonial project, a Siamese twin with the imperial project. And all these were designed to ensure that Africa and her resources were under the beck and call of these pernicious civilizations. And it is these civilizations who throughout the ages have used derogatory terms to define our mother continent. They have called us the dark continent. They have called the countries that they created in Berlin sometimes underdeveloped countries, sometimes developing countries. They have no shortage of words that they concoct and deploy every so often. And they are the ones who continue to tell our stories. If they don't tell it through Radio Deutsche Welle, they tell it through BBC. If they don't tell it through BBC, they tell it through Al Jazeera. And if they don't tell it through Al Jazeera, they tell it through Radio France. And lately, even the Chinese now tell it through CGTN, and they tell it through CNN. The story is never told by us. And even when they don't call us the dark continent, I believe that in their silent moments when they are alone, they still look at us as if we are children of a lesser God. But we have now become wise. We now know that there are no good Samaritans out there. There are only bad Samaritans. And these bad Samaritans' only claim to fame is that they have insatiable appetite for things that belong to us. And this is not new. They did it a long time ago. They came to Africa and destroyed our civilization. They destroyed our libraries. They came to Africa when there were organized kingdoms in Benin, when there were organized kingdoms in Monomotapa, when there were organized kingdoms in Buganda, when there were organized kingdoms in different parts of Africa, they came and they looted. They took our artifacts, which now populate their museums. They took our things and they paid with nothing, and they now pontificate to us. And they have never stopped. They only change, they only camouflage their agenda, and they ensure that we are kept under their control. But we must now refuse. And that is why I'm happy to participate with you in this conference. It is not a conference about lamentation. We have lamented for too long. It is not a conference that is designed to make us look helpless in the eyes of the world. We are not helpless. It is a conference at which we say, no more. It is a conference at which we say, how can it be that a continent that is so rich is paradoxically so poor? How can it be that a civilization that is so old is downtrodden? How can it be that a people that are so endowed can be so subdued? How can it be that a people that have the wherewithal are hankering after crumbs? How can it be? That is why we have come here to say, not how can it be, but to say how it will be. And it will be as we desire it. It will be as our founding fathers, whether in the diaspora or in the continent, long desired it to be. It shall be as Marcus Garvey envisioned it. It shall be as Julius Kambarage Nyerere envisioned it. It shall be as Nelson Mandela envisioned it. It shall be as the Osaki of Kwame Nkrumah envisioned it in that day, 24th and 25th days of May 1963, when he spoke with a sense of urgency in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, telling the 32 heads of states and government on that day, let us neither look east nor west, let us look forward. He exhorted the people on that day, and I believe that a time has come now. And that is why I'm gladdened that in the year 2013, African heads of state sitting in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, envisioned a new Africa under Agenda 2063, in which they see an Africa that is trading with herself, an Africa where young men and women will move without the need of a passport, from Djibouti in East Africa to Dakar in Senegal, an Africa where young men and women will remove from Cape Town in South Africa to Tunis in Tunisia, an Africa where young people in Nouakchott in Mauritania and young people in Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso will see not the difference between themselves, but will only see the bond that should tie them together. That is the Africa that we want to talk about. We want to see an Africa which will not be dictated to from Washington, an Africa which will not be dictated to from London, an Africa which will not be dictated to from Berlin, an Africa which will not be dictated to from Lisbon and Madrid and from Washington and from Beijing, an Africa which will be governed by her people. That is the Africa that we are talking about. It is an Africa which will harness our resources, natural and human, an Africa that will no longer send her raw gold to Antwerp in Belgium, an Africa that will no longer send her raw diamond to Antwerp in Belgium, an Africa that will no longer send her cocoa to Nestle in Switzerland, an Africa that will no longer send her raw tea to the Netherlands and to the United Kingdom, an Africa that will add value to our products. That is the Africa that we are talking about. An Africa which will have our young sons and old men and women touring the continent so that we do not rely on foreign tourists, but when they come, we shall not stop them. We are looking towards an Africa that will no longer be called the lowest of the low. We are looking to an Africa that is great, and that is why we have come here to rebrand. We have come here to tell ourselves that we have the capacity. We have come here to remind ourselves that we have the wherewithal. We have come here to remind ourselves that we have the resolve. We have come here to tell the world, even when the world does not believe us, that we have woken up from our slumber and that the world is going to behold a continent that is different, a continent that will bestride this world like the fable, the Colossus, and do so in a manner that will ensure that she's strong in agriculture, strong in health, strong in education, strong in invention and innovation, strong in all aspects that will improve the quality of the lives of our sons and daughters. That is the Africa that we are rebranding. We have come here to tell them that our stories will no longer be told by Al Jazeera. Our story will no longer be told by BBC. Our story will no longer be told by CNN. Our story will no longer be told by Radio Deutsche Welle or France. Our story will be told by ourselves. We are beginning to create our own media, and that media will tell our stories as it is, and it will not be jaundiced. It will be a story that is worthy of a great civilization. We have come, we have rebranded, we are new. The world had better prepare for us. We are going to demonstrate to the world that we have the capacity and that we shall now meet with them at the dinner table of human civilization. We shall no longer eat the crumbs. We have eaten the crumbs for too long. We shall no longer do it. We shall be at the dinner table. If steak is served, we shall partake of it. If caviar is served, we shall partake of it, and we'll do it in an apologetic manner. We shall break the barriers. That is why the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which ought to have taken place or to commence activities on the first day of July, but has been postponed because of COVID to 1st of January 2022, is a good thing. We are going to break down the tariff and non-tariff barriers, and we are going to be so careful as to ensure that the perennial infiltrators from Europe and other parts of the world will no longer do it. We will not allow them to have their Trojan horses in our midst. We shall find them out, and we shall only deal with them on the basis of equality. That is the continent that we are going to talk about. A great continent, a great people who are rebranding and are coming to the world to be beheld in its full splendor. I wish you the very best as we rebrand our continent, a great continent, the continent, the cradle of civilization, the home of great people, the home of civilization. God bless you.
Straight to the moderator.
Oh my goodness, if that didn't inspire you. I think Professor Lumumba articulated our problem statement, and it's a great point of departure for all the sessions we have in the next 2 days. And now I think we've caught up with the time, which is what I love very much. And I'm going to introduce our moderator, who's going to introduce the guest to talk about the impact of perception on destination, highlights from around the world. So please help me welcome Senior Fellow at African Liberty, Phumlani Majozi.